Good morning. A few weeks ago I had to venture into Sydney City for a meeting. It's the first time I've been into the city since before COVID. First time I've been on a train since before COVID. I set off with mask and book and phone and bag. I also took my camera. I thought I had some things to do in the city before the meeting, and I thought it was grey and overcast and rainy. I might get some interesting photos. And the camera for me is a way of engaging and interacting and seeing, of stopping to observe what's happening, to look around and to see the city. And I thought I might be able to take some photos in that space. As I set off on the bus, it's only a 5 to 10 minute trip to Westmead Station. I didn't bother with phones and books. I looked around. There was a family got on with a mum and probably her parents, grandparents, a small child in a stroller and maybe a 3 or 4 year old. And they were trying to get these children on the bus and sit down. The adults were distracted despite this 3 or 4 year old demanding attention and being quite energetic. There were distracted looks in their eyes, and they tried to pacify him. And others were talking, in pairs in seats, just talking quietly or animatedly. Others were glued to their phones, or I guess it was the phones, tablets, listening, watching, reading, scrolling, texting. Others were looking out the windows with a distracted look on their face, far away look, dreaming or wondering or pondering or worrying. And as I looked around and observed, I wondered what these people were thinking, where they were in this moment. Where was I in this moment? Much the same on the train. Although I had a book to read and there were some emails I had to do, there was time to stop and watch as everyone engaged in their own little world. Sometimes there were pairs of people or couples who were talking quietly. Some were talking loud on the phone. Some were watching videos, obviously. Some were texting, scrolling through, reading, listening to music, reading books, or just staring into space. People not engaging with each other or with the world beyond. And as I looked out the windows, there were various scenes. There were cars rushing and some just drifting along the streets. People wandering up and down the streets. Some sitting in cafes. And you could see in that brief moment animated talk, and some just taking in the world. I saw the changing landscape of the city as we move further into Sydney. And I wondered about this world around us and the people, what they were thinking and where they were. In the city, I wandered through the streets. I watched people rush by on their way to somewhere, rushing around in their lunch break perhaps, looking for food. I wandered through a food hall and saw people engage in all sorts of things and stuffing food into their faces. Lined up, queuing, looking, wondering what to buy. I saw street people in niches along the footpath out of the weather. Some in sleeping bags, asleep. Others with seats and cardboard signs begging for money, for help. I saw people rushing by. I saw people wandering and looking in the streets, in the shops. I saw all sorts of people. And I wondered what they were thinking, what they were experiencing, what was going on behind those faces, behind the distractions of the screens that some people were still watching, behind the rushing. I wondered what was going on. I took some photos. I stood and watched people and scenes and situations, the colour and the lights reflected through the rain off the wet street, and I looked around the city and I wondered what was happening in the buildings, workplaces, hotels, apartments, shops, of the lives that people were living in these places, of the violence and pain and struggle, of the joy and the hope, the myriad reactions and feelings to life. What was going on in this city? I pondered this scene this morning as I wandered down along Toongabbie Creek with Nico, watching the sun shining through trees, the birds singing, the quiet of the world and its beauty. Trying not to be distracted by thoughts and other ideas, but listening to the world around me. Taking the time and the moment to stop and listen and be in presence of the sacred, the divine, God, the Spirit. I've been pondering this story, a story this week, an ancient story that comes to us from Luke and his story of Jesus. Jesus was welcomed into a home of two women, Martha and Mary. Welcomed in by Martha, who immediately goes about the tasks, the important tasks of women. She's serving, she's cleaning, she's cooking, she's preparing, she's welcoming, she's serving. And in Luke's Gospel, serving is a really high function, a high valued function. But she's working hard. And her sister Mary plumps herself down with the other men in front of Jesus, this rabbi. And she listens. She takes it in. We're not told what she experiences or what it's about, but she listens to Jesus, she takes it in, and she engages in this experience, which is often denied to her, mostly denied to her. And at some point, Martha, who's in the back room doing whatever Martha's doing, becomes angry and frustrated, and it builds up. And finally she bursts in and says, Jesus, can't you see what's happening? I'm doing all the work and this lazy sister of mine is sitting here doing nothing. Can you tell her to get up and do what she's supposed to do and help me? And Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you know your work is important. He doesn't deny that. But Mary is doing the one good thing. And this will not be taken away from her. Mary is doing a good thing. You are distracted by many things. Those tasks will remain, but this moment won't. Mary is sitting in a place of men. A place that's denied women. Women are supposed to do what Martha does. It's important work, it's valued work, but it's the work of women. Only men sit and recline before the rabbi and listen. And this opportunity to experience Jesus, to listen to his words, to hear and know him and experience him, is denied Mary. But she takes it up. She sits there and she listens. It's a bold move. It's a courageous move. She transgresses the values and the traditions of her society. It's a taboo, perhaps. She does what she's not supposed to do. And Jesus affirms her. It's a bit like Malala, a young Pakistani girl who wanted an education denied her and many girls and women across the world. She wanted an opportunity to learn and to grow in a way that was often denied her and other women and girls. And she fought for it, and she suffered for it. Many stories have emerged in recent times of women fighting for rights, fighting for safety, fighting for dignity when they've been shamed and abused and violated and experiencing violence in the workplace, in important places in our nation, in homes, in relationships. Denied opportunities, denied equal income, denied the value of who they are. All of this is in Mary. Mary who stands up for the opportunity to be, to become, to be a human being sitting before the sacred and the holy and valued. And Jesus affirms her. He doesn't unaffirm Martha, but he welcomes her as well into this space of not being distracted by the busyness and the tasks of life, important as they are, but to sit and be. To sit in the presence of God and listen and be. The presence of God that's all around us, in the words and the action and the life of Jesus. In the trees and the plants and the birds' song and the sun shining. In the reflected lights of a city street in the rain. Of the faces of humanity, the struggling people who are homeless and living in the streets. Those who are weighed down by many worries and consumed by tasks and importance. Maybe it's an invitation for us all to stop. To stop our distracted lives and to sit and listen and to be. To experience this moment. I recognise many times when I've sat in the city and gone in and had a coffee and sat there distracted, haven't even tasted the coffee. Nor perhaps looked into the coffee and the grounds and thought of the people who have prepared that coffee, grown the beans, the farmers, some of whom have been ripped off by multinationals. Those who have worked to provide the food that I eat. Those who are part of my life, interacting, giving me opportunities to grow and learn and experience, to have fun and enjoy life and be. In this story of Martha and Mary, we're invited into the space of being, to stop and to be, to listen, to grow, to learn, to be in relationship. And most important of all, to recognise the sacred and the holy in our midst. The presence of God that is everywhere around us and through us and in us. And to recognise the relationship we have with God, with one another, and with the earth. And what that leads us into in the way we live, and what life we will take from that. Is it a life of violence and competition and power and wealth and accumulation and looking down on others or putting them in their place, or will we be drawn into the life of generous sharing? A place where everyone has their place, their role, their value. Where everyone contributes and belongs. And we benefit from one another. And we share this earth together and its resources and its life. But also we care for the earth and its creatures. Trees and plants and forests. Animals who call those forests and plains and savannas and bushland home. Animals and plants and life and earth itself that we depend on for our own existence. And the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat. Gifts from God to all of us, but so often accumulated and stored in the hands of few. Mary invites us to sit in the presence of the sacred, of the holy, of the mystery at the heart of all things. of this wonder, this truth, this love that holds all people and all things. And Mary invites us to sit in that presence and to be, to listen, to hear, to experience, to feel, to know, and to be known. And in being known, to be set free, to live as we can be, to flourish in the being we are, to become who we can be and rejoice in it, along with the being of everyone else. It's not a me versus you, but it's us in this together. Mary invites us to stop, to sit, to listen, and to be in the presence of God, the Spirit, the sacred, the mystery, the love, the heart of all things. Let's take time to sit in the quietness and to be. Amen.